Welcome everyone. For longtime fans of the channel, you've probably noticed some delays lately in content. As we approach the end of the year, things get busier with the holidays and family. I'm also working on some back-end stuff, including updates to the Patreon levels, but after the new year, things should clear up in a way that we can get more content out, just in time for a Tekken 8 release. So as we cruise towards the release date, what I intend is to focus on the brand new characters first and provide some preview videos on what they have and how they function. Then you'll start to see some more content recapping observed changes with legacy characters. Keep in mind that everything you see in these videos is fluid. Namco already made balance changes from the CNT to the CBT, and I expect that we'll get one more beta before launch, probably an open beta, but even if we don't, you can bet they'll make more balance adjustments before the full release. With that, let's jump into the juicy stuff. This video, we're going to be taking a look at Azucena, so, let's do that. So with the CBT over, the only readily available clips I have are the move list, and since this is a preview, we're not going to go too deep and instead just hit the highlights. So the first place we'll start is poking, which seems really strong for Azucena. She doesn't have a standard 1-2 jab string, instead that is more of a punisher for her, but she does have 1-1, which is a safe high-mid natural combo that goes to her stance. She also has 2-1, another safe high-mid natural combo, and she has a very strong down-forward 1, because down-forward 1-4 is a safe natural combo, and although it's mid-high, it jails, so you can't duck the second hit on block. That's pretty rare for a down forward 1 string. Her exceptional string game is actually a trend that quickly emerges when you test her out because she has several strong, safe strings that are also natural combos if they land. To run through these briefly, standing 3 is very similar to Fakumram's and Josie's, except Azu's are true natural combos, so she doesn't need a counter hit. Down forward 4-1 hits really hard and has a big delay window. Down 3-2 again hits hard and goes to stance. Forward 3-2 has a big delay window as well and is definitely confirmable. And she even has a knee string like Josie with back 4. These don't come without risk. For instance, you'll notice most of these end with highs, but just having those enders helps give back initiative. And since all of these are natural combos, they make for really good punishers. For example, these all wall splat. And that's not even getting into the potential counter hit launches should your opponent actually swing into some of these. However, if you don't want to use the strings at all, you don't have to. All of these are really strong mid pokes just by themselves. But it's not just mid strings either. The aforementioned 2-1 string has a third hit ender. 4-1 is probably going to be really common to get to back turn, and it has a mid option should anyone try to duck it. Down 3-3-4, although it doesn't give the most reward in the world, is still a low starter that fits this trend. Down back 3-4 is going to be super annoying because it's a counter hit launch string that starts low, and if the low hits, even as a non-counter hit, it jails, so they can't duck that second hit. That doesn't make it safe, but it greatly reduces the risk. That's not even the end of the list of strings that start low. She also has down 4, which is a neat little toe tap that has a couple of string follow-ups. So her string game is just really good in this current iteration. That said, her single hit game seems exceptional as well. Obviously you have jab and down forward 1, but her down back 4 is a high damage low poke that high crushes and gives a toe stun on counter hit. Her full crouch down forward 3 is wild. It's basically the same as down back 4, but actually gives advantage on hit and even a free follow-up while standing 4-1 on counter hit. So this low is going to be a mainstay. She has more or less the same down forward 2 as Josie. She doesn't have a hop kick, but she does have a crazy good orbital. It's the same speed as Brian's, but with more range, and it hits grounded. Down 1 is very close to being her best move, especially if they don't nerf it. It's a stupidly safe hard-hitting mid that launches on counter hit. It also leaves her in crouch after, which is good for follow-ups. And actually, let's talk about those because she is littered with counter hit launchers and counter hit traps. The big one is while standing 1. It's a safe 13 frame mid, but it stays crouched the entire duration of the move. So that element of evasion plus the speed makes it an insane counter hit tool. You can put it just about anywhere and it'll be good. 1+2 is very similar to down 1, it's just a high instead of a mid. Upward 2 is in that same category. Very cool looking move with built-in evasion, but again, it can counter hit launch. Down forward 3 doesn't have any evasion, but it's still a quick, very safe mid counter hit launcher. Her down back 2 doesn't need a counter hit, but it's yet another tool that's extremely evasive and good for setups, although it is very risky on block. It even has a counterpart low in down 1+2. One is mid, the other is low, but they both have the same startup animation. She even has some Sabaki tools like up forward 1. She's also not lacking in utility moves. Forward 1+2 is a safe rangy power crush that's also a heat engager. If you need an approaching punisher, forward 3 is solid. Her forward 4 and back 2 are safe, excellent homing tools. Forward 4 is also a heat engager, but that's only one of 3 string options you have with forward 4. Back 3, forward 4, and forward 3+4 are all solid pressure tools, and again, one of these is a heat engager, which would be back 3. Running 3-2 is also a pressure tool and clearly her best move. It's insanely fast, hits really hard, jails so you can't duck that second hit on block. It gives sizable advantage on block, and it tracks way more than it should. And with changes to the running system, it's incredibly easy to do now at range 0. I would be surprised if this doesn't get nerfed. Even her crouch is really good. We already mentioned full crouch down forward 3 and while standing 1, but she has a typical 15 frame mid launcher with while standing 2. While standing 3 is a mid that'll take you to stance with advantage on block, so really good for that. And her while standing 4 is a string, so back to those string games. But while standing 4s that have string options are always strong. So interestingly, even though Namco has highlighted that stance, which is unique, where she's most powerful is actually just these basic set of neutral tools. But let's talk about some stance stuff. She actually has 2, her lib stance and then her back turn. Her back turn seems fairly straightforward. The only mix-up threats are the low toe kick, which has been nerfed across the board for everyone, and back turn 3, which is a chunky low that takes her to the other stance, lib. That said, the other options do force some patient play. She has 2 jab options to choose from, and just like her other strings, there's some counter hit launch potential there. Back turn 2 is a safe mid hit throw. Back turn 1+2 is another counter hit tool, although not safe. You can play some more string games with back turn 4, and you even have a low crushing launcher with back turn 3+4. It does feel like against an opponent that is well versed in these options, it'll be hard to get a ton of value from back turn without really leaning on back turn 3, but these tools still exist, and as we always say, the more you have to threaten with, the more your opponent has to think about. Lib, on the other hand, is a bit of a conundrum. The auto parry that has been all the talk only works on highs and lows. The stance doesn't start up particularly quick, and her fastest move once she's there is only 13 frames. Although that is a jab, it's slow for a jab. So especially against characters with quick tracking mids, Lib seems kind of limited to situations where she can transition with significant advantage, like after 1-1 for example. Because once you're there, she has a hell sweep option with down 4-4. She has a safe chunky mid option with lib 2, which is also a heat engager. She has lib 4-1-2, which is very similar to her while standing 4 string, but actually has more reward since the lib version can launch. Or you can use something like lib 3+4, which is a safe homing armor tool. It's just high, or even go for broke with lib 1+2, which is risky, but it has some evasion and will give you a nice juicy launch. So if she has the advantage, it can be really strong. It's just a matter of getting that situation. All of that said, her heat largely is there to address that issue. The startup is way faster on lib so that she can use it more in neutral. She gains a safe mid launcher with lib down 3+4, although obviously that uses some meter. Similarly, she gains 3 new transitions, which are back 1-1-2 forward, back 2 forward, and lib 1-2 forward. These do burn meter, however, it turns all of those moves into launchers on hit. Back 1-1-2 seems probably the least useful, but back 2 is a homing move, so she gets a safe homing launcher when the meter is running. And then like every other character, she can use 2+3 to burn all her meter for a single use pressure tool. Either way, overall her heat options seem pretty good. The last things to really mention are her grab game and punishers. Grab game is fairly simple since she only has the normals and a single 1+2 break, however she does have crouch grabs, which in Tekken 8 are unbreakable. And for her, they are also heat engagers, so that's pretty good. Her punishing is also simple too, since all you really need is 1-2 and while standing 4-1 until you can do your fastest launchers, which would be down forward 2 and while standing 2. But again, because so so many of her strings are natural combos, you have a ton to choose from at other levels or for whiffs. For example, standing 3 is 14 frames, so you can use that as a longer ranged 14 frame Punisher, especially at the wall. And although she's not a character with a fast long range shoulder like Fang, forward 3-2 is still really good for that since forward 3 has crazy range. And that rounds out the highlights for now. Going into it, it felt like maybe she would be weird and difficult to play given how her stance works, but she's far more orthodox than you might expect. So to end the video, let's do a quick recap and give you some impressions. Okay, so how do we summarize all of this? First, there's a lot more to this character right now than what I can rightfully give you in a preview. We don't want to go too deep because who knows what Namco will change before release, but also who knows what we'll discover once the game is out. That said, there are two main takeaways from this current iteration of her. The first is that her non-stance tools are way stronger than anyone was expecting. Running 3-2 in particular is something I fully expect to change, which I mentioned before. Right now, you can simply spam that and pick a couple of lows and pokes and you're set. That's it. That's a perfectly viable game plan. That's how strong that is. But the rest of her kit is also so strong that even if running 3-2 gets nerfed, she's still going to have plenty to work with. Her counter hit game is especially strong. She just has so many counter hit launchers, but we didn't even get to talk about her Oki because that's such a big conversation. However, she has so many ground hitting moves and situations where she gets free follow-up grounded hits that her Oki is probably one of those things flying under the radar right now. She's way more than just her stance. Which the other takeaway is that her stances seem to be just for flair. They are definitely fun and entertaining, but they seem pretty high risk for low reward given how good her non-stance tools are. Now, this could just be because she's new and we all need a bigger sample size. For instance, she has built-in movement options with both lib and back turn that we didn't talk about, but they seem like they're highly situational. If you go into either stance at disadvantage, I don't expect those movement options to save you. Still, they're very neat, and again, it gives the opponent more to think about. So my position has always been and remains that more tools are better than fewer tools. So the stances will definitely be able to add to your opponent's mental stack. However, she's probably going to focus more on the non-stance stuff, which was unexpected after seeing the trailers. So overall, yeah, she seems really strong. Maybe not broken, but assuming they don't make a huge number of nerfs, I would be surprised if she's not competing for the top spot. And she's honestly just super fun to play. I look forward to seeing more of her in the future. And now we're going to wrap up this video. As always, I want to thank our patrons. That support helps far more than you know. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, be on the lookout here very soon for Patreon changes. I want to do more with that for Tekken 8. But either way, keep learning, guys, and I will hopefully see you in the Tekken 8 lobbies.